Hey everybody, this is Holly, and you are watching the Bowtie Psychic here on YouTube. I'm a psychic and intuitive medium who focuses on divination and storytelling to help people overcome generational trauma. And so you're listening to or watching, rather, the Daily Messenger for September 10th, 2019. So while I was tapping in, I was wondering what the messages your spirit had for the collective today. And the first thing I got was drumming. Well, to back up a little bit, um, I got the message to like incorporate a lot of my own personal story into these readings and these messages. As far as why I'm doing this, how did I even come to this journey? How did I even begin to, you know, to do tarot readings and use this platform of divination and in storytelling in order to help people overcome generational trauma. Basically, to talk about my journey, my spiritual journey. So I'll be doing that a lot more, as the time comes, because my own personal story is the reason why I'm doing this. And so I'm meant to tell you Spirit is telling me to go ahead and do that. So I'm myself a sexual abuse survivor. My perpetrator was my aunt, and then my mother uh, abused me in other ways. I was also a survivor of bullying. I became a bully, as a result of that, and because of what was going on in my own home, and I was also a protector of of some sort, towards my little brother, but I was also abusive towards him because that's how that sort of thing was communicated in my household. And so a lot of things, a lot of things happened to me as a result, of those experiences as a result of being sexually abused. I was sexually assaulted, and um, as an adult. And then on top of that, I was struggling a lot with, the eating disorder and like a lot of sexual trauma, that was being reenacted by a lot of people that I was being intimate with. I often, felt like I was inadequate. On top of that, throughout my childhood, I was also called stupid. So called ugly, stupid, um, and being called pretty much everything under the sun except for a child of spirit. And so what ended up happening was that I carried that stuff into my childhood. So I struggled with eating disorders. I struggled with alcoholism. I struggled with promiscuity. And when I say my promiscuity, I would say that was shame, but I just slept around a lot, because I was finding that love and I was finding those connections, or calling myself finding those connections, and so all that stuff, um, happened to me, because of my, abuse at home, when I was growing up, and so now, in my own spiritual journey, I am being called to help other people and to tell my story to other people and to use, divination to do so, um, in order to connect with people and to show them that, it's okay to go through those experiences and still be a healthy adult and still be able to live your life accordingly. And, uh, and basically, that's one of the reasons, that's the condensed version of my story and why I am doing this. And over time, I'll definitely, when if I'm called to, I will definitely like give more detail, about me and why I'm doing this. I'm also being led to talk about drumming and the importance of drumming. Drumming is actually it emulates the heartbeat. Is basically like an instrument that is very rooted in grounding, very rooted in keeping people at a very even level. Is used in meditation. Is used in journeying. For is used for shamanic practices. There's something called journeying, where you basically go into like a trance-like state, and you go into like three different worlds. You go to the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world. And the lower world is where you actually see or meet your spirit animal. And so, what drumming does is basically keeps you, from journeying from, it keeps you steady. It keeps you steady. It not only just puts you in a hypnotic state, but it basically keeps you focused on the task at hand when you are going through journeying. And so what ends up happening is that with drumming, not only is it used for, to keep you grounded, but it's also to raise the vibration too. Like any instrument, can either raise or lower the vibration or change the energy of the entire area. So basically, when you're drumming and you put the intention out there to connect with your ancestors, to connect with spirit, what ends up happening is that it raises your vibration. It raises your energy. It basically, you can feel the drumming, especially since it's pulsating throughout your entire body. It's as if it's waking up something within you. And what ends up happening is that all the energy that has been stored in your body starts to rise. It starts to awaken. It starts to awaken that warrior energy, because like I said, depending on how the drumming is used, a lot of warriors have used it to go into war. A lot of tribes have used drumming to summon the ancestors or to call upon the ancestors. You basically, it's a instrument that calls action. It calls for action, and so it's so with drumming, I'm being basically being led to tell you that it's okay to, in fact, it'll be very beneficial to incorporate drumming in your practices, in your everyday practice, if you can. Like if you have like a small djembe, I know that I have a small one. Um, I also have, oh, I, oh, I'm sorry. I used to have like a bigger drum set, but I wasn't able to play it. But if you have a drum set, by all means, go ahead, because that's another way for you to, you know, summon your ancestors or connect with your ancestors in some way, shape, or form. You can use bongos, um, or anytime you can even, on the table, you can tap on the table. You know what I mean? It's a form of drumming. It's a form of, you know, um, getting in touch with that inner warrior, you know, within that's very important in these times. Especially if you're so afraid, or you are if you're afraid or you're anxious or you're nervous about something, or nervous about change, or you have something coming up and you are wanting to summon up that warrior energy, drumming will actually help with that. So I just wanted to say a little bit about that, say something a little bit about that rather, as far as instruments and how instruments are extremely important, especially drumming, because it's such a grounding instrument. It is um, one that is, I know that if you make your own drums, some people use a deer skin or like animal hide. That's not necessary, but when you're making your own drum, it is something that could be used. And so what ends up happening is that it becomes part of the earth. It becomes part of your roots. It becomes a part of you, that instrument, because again, um, it emulates the heartbeat. It symbolizes the heartbeat. It symbolizes the heart of spirituality. So that's how I feel um, about drumming, and how it can how you can incorporate it into your everyday practice, a spiritual practice. And so if that re- resonates with you in any way, shape, or form, by all means, you can follow me here on YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. In fact, I would be really thankful if you subscribe to the channel here, because you get so much information. you get so many readings, and so the more I, show up in the news feed, the better. So I'm able to help other people, in fact, my spirit guides, I'll be able to help other people as well. So let's get started with the cards here. I'm just getting like, with this energy I'm getting, it's just very relaxing. And I'm just getting a lot of people are starting to relax. A lot of people are starting to realize and be grateful for what they have. A lot of them just getting there. A lot of people are, even though it's there's a lot going on this today, like because of so many energies coming up from everything. Because there was a moon last night, so the moon energy is still here, and there's just like this push to be better, this push to do something better. And that's what I'm getting. Like people are just looking, at least the people that are meant to see this video, they're looking for something much greater than themselves. I'm just getting that, like there's a lot of people out here answering their calling, chasing their calling, not even chasing, but basically um they are just not running from it. They're not running from it. They are actually walking to their calling, and the reason being is that there are so many of us who are craving that spirituality, craving that love and that connection with spirit and your spirit guides. There are a lot of people who are practicing different types of spirituality, different types of, African traditional religions. There are people who are looking into shamanism, light work, voodoo. They're going against the grain. They're going against the norm. Um, this is what I'm getting, intuitively. And so as a result of that, people are not, I'm also getting to that people, like the whole game has changed. People are not tolerating trauma anymore. They're not tolerating the old stuff anymore. They're not tolerating the old shit. They're not doing that anymore. They're looking for something. They're not even giving themselves excuses to hold on to that stuff. What I'm getting is that everyone is doing the best they can under these circumstances, and they are doing everything they can to be better. And I'm just so proud of the people who are like doing the work and doing what's necessary. And they're looking for the tools and tips. They're looking for the information. They're looking for ways. They're looking for the teachers out there who are very educated in what they are um, looking to get into as far as or practice spiritual practices. And so don't be surprised that there's going to be a lot more, at least on here on YouTube, there's going to be a lot more teachers. There's going to be a lot more teachers out here. There's going to be a lot more people doing videos. There's going to be a lot more. I mean, there are spiritual teachers here anyway, but there are going to be people who are, looking for something completely different. It's not just about just tarot card readings or just, teaching or tools and tips. It's going to be like an incorporation of all of it. There's going to be, like one video, or something of that nature. I'm just getting that a lot of people are looking for, um, looking more into tools and tips and information to connect with spirit and on how to be better. There are people who are wanting to eat better as well. Again, the people are changing their diets now because they are realizing that a plant-based diet is better for them, or clean eating. Eating lots of fruits and vegetables are better for them, and so they're starting to realize that by making these changes, it would do their body good. But I'm also getting to that there's a lot of there's just a lot of people who are shifting. There's a lot of people who are shifting right now, and they're looking for something much bigger and much greater. People are just growing tired of the same thing. People are getting burned out doing the same thing. And so what I mean by the same thing, people are getting burned out. People are getting burned out by the media. People are being burned out by, their own life circumstances. People are being sick and tired of doing the same thing over and over again. Excuse me. And so what I'm just getting is that people are just not running away from their journey anymore. They're not running away from their purpose anymore. If anything, they're doing everything they can to find it. I'm just getting like a lot of heart chakra stuff too. Like it's not exactly hurt or pain. Um, but what I'm getting is that like the heart. I'm just seeing like the heart is like I'm just seeing like a yellow light pulsating inside of a red heart. And what that means is that there are people who are healing. There are people out here that are healing. And it's like they're healing from a lot of hurt and a lot of um, emotional pain, is what I'm getting. And it's starting from the inside out. And that tells me right there that people um, are doing the heart chakra work. There are people who are letting their emotions flow. They're letting their emotions fly, and they're not hiding their emotions to their emotions anymore. That's exactly what I'm getting from that. Yeah, there's a lot of people who are awakening right now. There's a lot of people releasing and releasing a lot of pain by telling their stories. Like there was like for instance the young woman um who was raped by Brock Turner. Um, she's telling her story in a memoir. She actually is doing interviews right now. Um, there are a lot of people who are basically changing the narratives through storytelling, through their stories. There's a lot of people who are taking their power back through their stories. There's a lot of people who are um, telling the truth and not running away from that truth. Um, and so, for those who are writers out there, um, this is a time for you to start meditating and allowing the story to come to you. You not going to the story, let the story come to you. Meditation will actually help with that. The, one of the reasons why I'm saying this is because as an author, I'm starting to realize that a lot of my story ideas came from spirit and came from me just relaxing and letting the story tell itself to me. I'm not pressuring the story. I'm not pressuring myself. But basically, I'm just seeing image after image after image of um, of of my story or ideas of stories. While I was doing meditation today, I was actually getting a lot of downloads about my own story, about my own life story that I'm writing, and I'm being told by a spirit to talk about my poverty, to talk about my poverty. To talk about the fact that for years I grew up with no hot water in my house. We literally had to boil water in order to get my take bath. We didn't have it. We weren't using the bathtub. We had to literally like stand up, in front of the sink and actually wash because we were too poor to afford hot water. And so hot water is actually a luxury to me. It still is a luxury to me. It's something that um, I did not have when I was growing up, when I was a child. So it's something that I don't even take for granted. And those are the things that you are going to be seeing. You're going to be seeing your life story, or you're going to be seeing story ideas, through meditation. So just be aware of that. Just be aware that whether it be your life story or fiction, be aware that meditation will really help you get those downloads of stories, of story ideas. You just are to tell or ask spirit for assistance. And this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about. It's not, we're letting go to through stories. We're letting go and doing a lot of emotional work through the written word. And so the more we write, or the more you type, the more you talk, you know, the more healed you will become. And so that's what Spirit wanted me to tell you. That's why we're getting all these tools and these tips, on how to incorporate different types of spirit, different techniques into our these this into, into our practice. I don't know where my mind went, but basically that's why we're getting all these tools and tips. So you get to add these techniques to your spiritual practice, and when you do that, you're able to clear your mind. You're able to clear your spirit. You're able to look at yourself and look at your situation in a way that's very loving and very caring, and something that's not to be ashamed of. And so that's why today uh, September 10th is so important. It's part of the palindrome, and that palindrome is part of a much bigger portal that is allowing us to, or a gateway portal, of all this energy and all this spiritual stuff, these spiritual downloads. So just be aware of that. If that makes sense to you in any way, shape, or form, you can resonate with it in any way, shape, or form. Be sure to subscribe to the Bowtie Psychic channel. Also share, comment, like. I would really like to see your comments. You can also get like a if you are interested in a more in-depth reading, go to Bowtie Psychic, thebowtiepsychic.com, and schedule an appointment. So, on that note, let's get to the cards. So, what I received here um, is believe it or not, is actually the six of water. And so, what I'm getting from this card, um, I love this card, by the way. I love this card because it's a water sign. It's a water card. So, I just want people to realize, look, this is like one of the most beautiful cards I've ever seen because she's a very giving person. She is giving all of her emotion and basically not just giving emotions, but basically extending all of her love to people. And she's also like inviting you to be vulnerable with her. She's opening up herself, to be vulnerable. And so that's what this card is telling us to do. Basically, it is time for us to be vulnerable. It is time for us to start telling our stories, to start telling people our truth, because there is someone out there who is going to be, very moved and very touched by what you're saying. There's going to be people who are going to be looking at you as a beacon of hope because you pretty much decided to share your story and share yourself with the world without shame. I know for me, sharing my story is very important because in getting and that's another thing, no longer hiding is, and that's what I'm saying. Like I myself am being asked to like go out into the world and start telling your story. Go out into the world and start sharing, who you are as an individual. You can't do anything, do very much of anything online. You can't do very much, you know, when you're in your home. A lot of us are stuck in on our computers. A lot of us are stuck behind the screen. And so as a result of that, people don't know us. People don't know us because we are just like hiding, isolating. One of the reasons why we do that, a lot of us, is because we are so afraid of the world. We're so afraid of each other. We're so afraid of other people because of how we were treated when we were children and when we were adolescents. Someone looked at us wrong. If somebody rejected us, we no longer want anything to do with the general population. And so we did not come this far to sit in our homes. We did not come this far to just allow our gifts to be hidden away simply because of someone looking at us wrong. The person anyone who would do that They're not for you anyhow. They're going to have an issue with you anyway. Be with the people. You are meant to be in this world. You are meant to be among people who get you. You are meant to be part of this big evolution, this spiritual revolution. Um, revolution is happening. You're a huge part of that. Okay, you're a huge part of many parts. So basically, you're being asked to not hide and to be vulnerable. This is a time for us to be that way. The year is almost over with. The year is almost over with. This is not the time for us. We're almost there. Is what I'm getting. Like we're almost there. This, at least for 2019, for a lot of people, was this year of turmoil. But the reason why that turmoil happened is because we are being pushed for more profound change. We're being taken out of our comfort zone. We're being taken out of our element, so we can strive to do something much better, on behalf of ourselves and on behalf of the human race. We cannot do this when we're in our house. Okay. We also have to understand that capitalism plays a huge part in people, not living their best life. Capitalism and imperialism and colonialism is one of the reasons why people feel so discouraged. I'm going to be honest with you. And this is very true for, impoverished people or people who are marginalized. You know, um, Capitalism and imperialism, all this discrimination that's going on, it definitely keeps people quiet. It keeps people, from living um, in with hope. Okay, like everything from if you watch the media, watch the news, you look at Facebook, watch what's going on Instagram, you see all this stuff happening. Okay, but this is the world way of challenging us. Okay, how are we going to react to each other? How are we going to react, towards ourselves? How can we use this situation to come together and tell and listen to other people's stories? How are we going to do this? So that's what that card is saying. Like we can do this. We can do this. We can basically start to understand one another, understand how capitalism, and how discrimination has gotten, how that affected us. You know, we can talk about intersectionism. We can intersectionality rather. We can talk about those things, but we are to tell our stories. That's the foundation. The foundation of all this is being out there and somehow telling our story of how this stuff affects us. Your story is important. I can't even stress this enough. So what we got here is the Eight of Water. And it's not, again, it's not a coincidence that we have two water signs here. Because what ends up happening is that once we start to open up to each other, we start to understand one another. We understand where we're coming from. We can understand how we can help each other. Words also cast spells. So we can come up with solutions and manifest those solutions with action. Once we get to and you see how his chakras are open, it's because somebody, like in this context, when someone understands you, it's as if you become a whole different person because you found your tribe, you found someone who's willing to listen to your story. There's a peace that comes with that. There's a peace that comes with that. There's a joy that comes with someone finally understanding you and getting to know you and witnessing you. We are to witness one another. We are to witness each other through stories. We are to witness each other through each other's magic and spiritual practices. We are to see each other as divine. But in order for us to do that, we are to come together and basically tell each other's stories and get to know one another, where one person is coming from. And I'm not saying it's going to be the end of everything, but what I am saying is that we're better together than we are apart. The system as it is, where it is, the system that we are dealing with today count on us not hearing each other, not talking to each other. It thrives on division, and it thrives on it thrives on these factions that we have. This set like it thrives on our separation and our segregation. So this is actually the time for us to. That's why a lot of this stuff is happening in the world. That's why we are dealing with everything from the Amazon fire, the fire in the Amazon to to 45 to what's going on in the rest of the world. The world is basically falling apart. The earth is dying. All this stuff is happening because this is a push for the world to come together. This is a push for the world to see how our thoughts and how the inability to see each other's divinity has come to this. So this is pretty much the time um, to start listening to each other and understanding one another, especially when it comes to, um, and I'm not talking about people within the system. I'm going to be real honest with you, or be real. I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not talking about so liberalism to the point where when we start talking to each other it's like kumbaya or anything like that. I'm not talking about us like dealing with the system either. I'm talking about people who are marginalized actually come together and supporting one another. There's this wonderful article about why queer people are so mean to one another, and the author of that particular article stated that the reason why queer people are going in on each other the way we are is because of the systems in place causing this trauma. Because the trauma that we went through, has put us on guard. And as a result of that, we have the tendency to look at anybody sideways the moment they mess up. If another queer person does something out of pocket, instead of giving that person the benefit of the doubt or hearing their side of the story, we cancel them, we shun them, or like excommunicate them from the community, from the queer community, the political community. We do these things because of the lack of understanding and because there's a lot of folks in the queer community that's dealing with trauma, like unresolved shit. And so what you know what I mean? So what we're being asked to do is to give people the benefit of the doubt. Now, unless they do something to harm, like deliberately do something to harm someone, uh, with no remorse whatsoever, that's an issue. And if they're a danger to someone, that's another issue. But if they've made a mistake, out of pure ignorance, or they did something that has nothing to do with the community, but just like a private thing, it's time to give that person the benefit of the doubt. We cannot allow, our trauma in the system to tear us apart to the point where we're not hearing each other. But once we are heard, we start to understand. And once we start to understand and even like look over our differences to the point, like it's like certain differences that are not going to, cause harm, then the I that we then that I highly suggest, I'm just getting that we are to come together. Okay. So I'm also getting the journey card upside down. And what I'm getting from this card, I'm just I'm also getting, and for some, I'm just getting before I even move on to this card. I'm also getting that which for trans women too, they are to be uplifted. They are to be uplifted by the queer community, and they are, but they need support the most. They need support the most. They cannot, we cannot afford to throw them out. They are not to be thrown out. Too many of them are being like killed for, just for being who they are. So more than ever, we are to come together as a unit, come together as a unit, come together as a collective, so we can protect those who are the most vulnerable, which are trans women. That's what I got from Spirit. Thank you. And so what I got here was the journey card upside down. And what I got from this card is that a lot of us are afraid of each other. A lot of us are afraid to even have that discussion. And a lot of us are afraid to go through that journey of understanding. A lot of people feel that that once they start doing that, they're putting themselves in a position of being used, or they put themselves in a position of 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 being victimized. People are just afraid. People are afraid of going down that route. It's the fear of the unknown. It's that fear, this fear of trust that a lot of people have, a lot of people in the collective have. We are to overcome that fear, talking to one another and understanding one another, and not allow like white supremacist ideologies to get in the way of the collective and the goals and the excuse me ambitions of the collective. We're not to let that stop us from discussing um, solutions and hearing each other's stories and hearing each other out. People are afraid. You're being told that there's going to be. This is so important to not be afraid of the journey, to not be afraid of beginning to open up to people, opening up to somebody, um, not to be afraid of what that person says or does, then to not be triggered. If there are triggers, then let's discuss that. But all this stuff that we're doing, in the collective, all this stuff and all this fighting, this infighting, is the end. Because it's just causing a lot of historical trauma. By us not coming together, we are literally continuing trauma, whether it be generational trauma or historical trauma. We are perpetuating it. And what Spirit is basically saying is that by us not going down the road of of talking to one another, and when I say us, I'm talking about the collective, where we don't go, if we don't go that mile, if we don't go that mile to talk to one another, we're going to be doing the same stuff. That's why we're being called to use our stories, to use our stories to empower other people and to empower each other. Use the stories to empower, not to, convince people of your worthiness. You are to empower yourself and to empower others. In fact, use your story to tell yourself, like, look, I am worthy of greatness. I am worthy of safety. I am worthy of love and compassion. Your story is to empower yourself, and in turn, it will empower others. The written word, like I said, words cast spells. And when you speak power within your, to yourself, when you speak power about yourself, when you use powerful words to describe yourself, the world seems different. The world comes like it hits the world. You hit the world different. You hit the world different. So you're literally being told to not be afraid to speak up and to not be afraid to allow others, to have their story heard as well. Like you are to listen, and you also um, are to speak up as well. And finally, we have the two of air. The two of air. I'm just getting duality. Duality with this card. You would know your own power as a person uh, who is multifaceted. You will know your power. You will know your darkness. You will know your light. People will know who you are, darkness and all, light and all. It's as if this person is not hiding anymore. And they're allowing their darkness to shine through. And that's what you're being, or their light and their darkness to shine through. We all have a story that we're embarrassed about. We all have, moments of darkness and toxicity. We all have those moments. We have those moments. So you're being asked not to be afraid of those moments. When people see both sides of you, they're gonna know what they're gonna know what runs you. They're gonna know what fuels you, what drives you. They're gonna know why you think the way you do, why you feel the way you do, why you act the way you do. They're gonna like people are gonna know that. People are going to know that. Um, so this whole thing is about going through the journey, hearing your own story, coming from your mouth, allowing yourself to speak, and allowing other people to speak. Just to give you a word of encouragement. In fact, let me go ahead and see. I just feel like we got this, and we can do this, And the energy is shifting to the point where the old ways of communicating or lack thereof isn't working anymore, and communication and discussion is the key at this point. It's basically the key. Like I'm just getting that storytelling and communication is a foundation. Yes. So we got time to reflect. The time to reflect card here is basically what this card is saying. Is that this is a time for us to reflect on what we're doing, reflecting on what we're saying, to reflect on everything that happened to us this year, to like reflect on everything that happened to us this year, whether it be our own life or what's going on in the world. It's time to reflect on that. Time to reflect on that and incorporate that into your story and talk about how that affects you. Talk about that how that affects you because sometimes, or if you're not talking, write about this. Write about this. Also, if you're an artist, you know, in any way, shape, or form, whether it be drawing or painting or dancing or playwriting, this is a time for you to use everything that you've learned this year and use writing as a way to reflect on it. Yeah, I'm just getting reflect on the journey. Reflect on the journey. reflect on the journey, reflect um, on your reflect on your part of it. Excuse me. Reflect on everything that's happened to you, everything that happened within your environment because of your reaction to what happened. You know, this is the time for you to like really start to look at this year so far because again, it's almost over with. You don't have to wait until New Year's Day to reflect or New Year's Eve to reflect on everything that happened during the year. This is actually the time for you to actually start doing that right now. So then you have a story to tell. You have a story to share with other people. You have a story to share about how you were able to overcome a lot of what you've been through this year if you've gone through some things. How were you able to handle that? How were you able to figure some things out about yourself? What did you find out about yourself? That's the tool and tip. Reflection. The tool and tip, another one, is reflection. Like the introspection, inner reflection, and telling your story will actually help you do that. So that is all I have for today's reading. If that resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, um, please, so again, for the third time, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, like, share, comment. I really want to hear your feedback. In fact, I look forward to it. Also, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're looking for a more in-depth reading, you can go to the bowtiepsychic.com to schedule an appointment. In the meantime, I'm still working on the um, the Patreon, so you'll be able to get a lot of exclusive things, from that as well. So, again, thank you so much for witnessing me. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate you, and I will see you tomorrow. Until then, peace.